Hey y'all, howdy. Welcome to One for the Books. I'm Sandy Broadwell, and today we're gonna film my Goodreads Choice Awards reading vlog for 2025. So last year I did a vlog where I tried to read, sorry, my cat. She's got the zoomies. Anyway, last year I did a vlog where I was reading science fiction picks from the Goodreads Choice Awards because I wanted to be more up on that category. I thought about doing the same thing again this year because the only book in the sci-fi category that I've read was a DNF, and I do still want to be like more up on sci-fi than I am. However, I personally don't think that a lot of the sci-fi books this year sound very interesting to me. And the one that I was probably most excited to check out, besides the one that I have here beside me, was not available through my library. So this is not a sci-fi reading vlog. This is just going to be me picking and choosing things from the Goodreads Choice Awards that I'm interested in and making a vlog out of it. So I have already, since the Goodreads Choice Awards started, I have already finished a book that is in the Goodreads Choice Awards, but that will not be appearing in this vlog, and that was The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. I was already reading that book when the Goodreads Choice Awards started, and so that is in my Lady Nights reading vlog, which I highly recommend. Some really, really good books in that one. So for this one, oh my god. I have one fantasy book, one sci-fi book, and one nonfiction book that I'm definitely going to be reading. And then if I have time, I will also try and throw a horror book in there, but we'll just see how many I can get through before the Goodreads Choice Awards are over. This will be the book I am reading for the sci-fi category this year. Hopefully I can finish this before the first round voting is over, because I would love to have a book to vote for that I actually read, not just a book that I DNF'd. We'll see. This is a sci-fi horror, and it says, new planets are fair game for asset strippers and interplanetary opportunists, and a commercial mission to a distant star system discovers a moon that is pitch black but alive with radioactivity. Its high gravity, high pressure, zero oxygen environment is an anathema to human life but ripe for exploitation. They call it Shroud. Under no circumstances should a human end up on Shroud's inhospitable surface, except a catastrophic accident sees Juna Sealander and my seat Etne doing just that. Forced to stage an emergency landing in a small, barely adequate vehicle, they are unable to contact their ship and are running out of time. What follows is a grueling journey across land, sea, and air. During this time, Juna and Mai begin to understand Shroud's dominant species. It also begins to understand them. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, that sounds awesome. I can't wait. And then my fantasy pick for this video, probably to no one's surprise, is The Strength of the Few by James Islington. This is the sequel to The Will of the Many. I had said in my last Goodreads video that I had put in a hold on this the day that it came out at my library, and it was like months wait. I don't want to wait that long. This was on my before the end of the year TBR, so I did pick up the first book in the series from a used bookstore, so I wanted to make sure that I actually supported the author this time around since I enjoyed the first book in the series so much. So very happy to have this beautiful book. It doesn't match the cover of the first book, so I'm hoping at some point there will be like a cover that matches that I can purchase to wrap my first book in, but we'll see. I'm not sure how I'm gonna try and talk to you guys about this since it is a sequel. So to pitch the first book to you, The Will of the Many is the story of a young man named Viz. He was a prince of a small kingdom, and his family was murdered by the conquering empire when he was about 14. And so he spent the rest of his childhood on the run in an orphanage and just trying to make a way for himself unnoticed in this new empire, which is called the Hierarchy. He is really, really smart, of course. He's a bit of a Gary Sue, but we all love a Gary Sue every once in a while. So he's really, really smart. He's really good at things. And he is discovered by a minister of the hierarchy. He's a very high-ranking government official, and he adopts Viz not because he wants a son, but because he wants a secret agent basically to infiltrate this magical academy that is run by the religious sect of the hierarchy's government system. And so there's basically like administrative government, there's the military branch of the government, and there's the religion branch of the government. And they all have a bit of like warring factions stuff going on. This senator basically like adopts Viz to send him to this magical academy to tell him basically if the religious sect of the government is doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing, and he thinks they're hiding it at this magical academy. So he sends Viz there to investigate and tells him basically, you know, if you do what I want and like do well at the school and report back to me everything that I want to know, then when you graduate, you know, like I'll set you up with a great position and you'll be free of obligation to me. Viz takes him up on that. It's like a really great opportunity, but he's also a bit trapped in it. At the same time, there is a resistance movement against the hierarchy, which is, again, pretty much the evil empire. And they also find and contact Viz and ask him to do things for them while he's at the school. And it's very tangly, it's very messy. There's lots of like different factions and allegiances and betrayals that are happening. There's, you know, magical mysteries to uncover. There's government plots to uncover. It's so fun. It's so fun. And the very last like chapter or two, like the last like little bit of the book is super mind-blowing, and that's why I'm like unsure if I'll be able to even talk to you about what's great about the second book as I'm reading it. Hopefully I think it's great. The first book ends on a major cliffhanger. So really excited to pick up The Strength of the Few and figure out what the heck is going to happen now. But it was really creative and just totally left me on the edge of my seat. So I'm hoping I have as much fun with The Strength of the Few as I did with The Will of the Many, because that has been one of my favorite books of the year so far. So we'll see if this one lives up to it or potentially tops it, hopefully. Okay, so fantasy pick for the vlog. Sci-fi pick for the vlog. As I said, I am also reading a nonfiction book, which I have already read. This is not the first clip that I filmed for this vlog because of circumstances, but you're about to dive into my nonfiction reading vlog portion. And I read The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I had read one other book in the nonfiction category for Goodreads this year, and that was Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green, which was also very good. But I'll save all my thoughts about The Serviceberry, but it is a nature-based nonfiction by an Indigenous author that I've read from before. So was very excited to pick that one up. Let me know in the comments below what books that made it to the Goodreads Choice Awards are highest on your TBR and what your favorite new releases that you've read this year. I'd love to hear about them. Okay, I've been talking way too long. Let's dive into the vlog. Once a quarter, I have a day where I have to drive about 3 hours for work. I have been trying recently to check out audiobooks to listen to on this like 3-hour journey. And right now, the Goodreads Choice Awards just dropped yesterday, and so I was trying to see if I could do a book for potentially a Goodreads reading vlog. I saw The Serviceberry was on the nonfiction category this year, and that's by Robin Wall Kimmerer, who's the author of Braiding Sweetgrass. And I actually got to meet her. She visited my former college campus, the University of Kentucky, a couple of years ago, and I got to go to the lecture and then also like meet her and talk to her afterwards. It was really, really special. She is an absolutely lovely human being. And The Serviceberry it's really like a slightly gussied up essay. It's only like the audiobook is only like 2 hours long. So it's like the perfect sort of book for this sort of day where I'm in the car and I'll get to listen to the entire book today. So I have just started The Serviceberry, and I just love nonfiction books that
are read by the author, because I feel like you really get to see like their emphasis and how they are intending the work to be interpreted. And also Robin Wall Kimmerer just has like a really comforting sort of voice, like an older female relative. She sounds exactly as sweet as she is in real life. So I'm gonna listen to that today, and I will update you guys once I finished it. Hey, I'm at a good stop along my drive, and I'm about 45% of the way through the Serviceberry, and I have so many thoughts already. She just phrases things so well and so succinctly, but she also kind of meanders in the way of like a true storyteller, of like tying together all of these like beautiful nature analogies. But the point of the Serviceberry, the point of this essay, is talking about abundance and reciprocity and like gift economies, how we can make those more of a reality in our capitalistic society, basically. And she was talking about how human nature really, in a lot of ways, goes against the like economic theories that we learn in the Western world. And that in times of great need and in disasters, that people turn immediately towards helping one another and mutual aid. And I found that especially true as someone who just lived through a major natural disaster about a year ago. Hurricane Helene hit Western North Carolina, and it was absolutely devastating. And there was no water, there was no electricity, for weeks in some cases. And people just dropped everything and helped each other. There was like people bringing buckets of water up from the river to help flush people's toilets, and there were people like driving in from all over the country to like pitch in and help out and donate, and people from within our community that including myself, that spent days helping find people, helping cut trees out of the road, helping check on everyone. So it's just interesting to see, like, I think she's right. I don't think that humans' natural tendency is to be as selfish as our society has made us. And I think it is part of the isolation of our society that kind of keeps us away from that. And she talked about how sharing is a cycle, that the more that you share, that the more that like goodwill is spread throughout the community. And I find that true also in the neighborhood that I live in now, and that there are, like my husband and I were just taken aback when we moved here that everyone in our neighborhood is so friendly. And if you're outside, like people are gonna like talk to you when they walk past, they're gonna ask how you're doing, they're gonna check on your dog, like all the things. They're gonna ask if you want any vegetables out of their garden, and like it's so lovely to live in a place like that, and it makes me want to like share that with my neighbors too. And I think, before where I lived, we hardly ever talked to our neighbors, and so there wasn't like a sense of community. But now that I am a part of a community, I want to lean into it even harder. And I think that would be true of most people, that when you feel like safe and secure and that you have anything to share, that you're willing to share it. Anyway, I'm rambling, but I just really love the way that Robin Wall Kimmerer like makes me think. Also, I thought it was really funny because I was just talking about in the first clip how she came and spoke at my university, and former university, but I worked there when she came and spoke. And she mentioned it in her book. And I thought that was especially funny because she didn't mention it. It was the University of Kentucky. But she just said she spoke at a large university and was giving a lecture in their natural resources department, and how she doesn't like that name, natural resources, because it tends to indicate that like our natural world is only as good as the resources that can be extracted from it. And that she recommended to the department that they rename as like the Department of Earthly Gifts or something like that. And I remember having this conversation with my forest ecology professor. She was very excited about this idea of like the Department of Earthly Gifts. And she was like, wouldn't it be great if, if we could convince everyone that this was something that we could actually rename the department to, and if we like re-strategized on like how we talk to students about the natural world. Of course, she works in the Department of Forestry, and like, even though it does focus a lot on sustainable forestry, just like the idea of like logging and things like that is like, it would have never passed. It would have never passed. But yeah, I just thought it was funny that Robin Wall Kimmerer like specifically talked about that example. And I was like, oh, I was there that day when that happened. So funny. I did not expect that. And now I have to reach out to my old professor and ask her if she's read this book yet. She probably has, but yeah, it'll be interesting to have that conversation with her. Anyway, I'm rambling. I need to get back to work. So I'll talk to you again soon. Okay, last stop. I just finished the Serviceberry and I absolutely loved it. It really resonated with me in a lot of ways. I loved how hopeful her books always are, or her essays, just how it provides an alternative way of considering our world and the ways that we could be in it and the way we can treat each other and the economy and the earth. Yeah, this was just like a salve. I love that she used Little Free Libraries as an example of a giving economy. As a book nerd, I thought that was cool. I also just loved how she talked about, if you think about like her example she gave was like a hat. If you buy a hat at a store, to keep your head warm, you'll think of it as a commodity and it'll keep your head warm just the same. But if you received a hat from like a favorite aunt that like knitted it herself for you, that you would consider the hat in a very different way and you would treat it differently and you would care about it more and like think of it differently and think of your aunt every time you used it. And like that is part of what the giving economy is about, is like building relationships more so than like exchanging goods. And it's not like your aunt didn't give you that hat for like to get something back from you. Like the reciprocity in that situation is like thankfulness and like a strengthening of bonds. Obviously it was only like a 2-hour listen and I could probably talk about it for equally as long, so I'll save you from the rest of my ramblings. But I just absolutely loved the Serviceberry. I wish more people would listen to Robin Wall Kimmerer and take what she has to say to heart. And this is going to change my nonfiction vote in the Goodreads category, or in the Goodreads Choice Awards, because the only other nonfiction book I had read in that category so far was Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. And I thought Everything is Tuberculosis was great, but it didn't resonate with me or like warm my heart the same way that the Serviceberry did. And to be fair, I still think John Green is going to win the category, but I'm going to give my vote to Robin Wall Kimmerer this time. So yeah, that's it for this one.
So as of last night, I am now halfway through The Will of the Many. I don't know if you can see my bookmark right here. But yeah, I'm 350 pages into this slightly over 700 page book. And I'm having a really good time. No surprises. This is one of my most anticipated books of the year. But let's take a moment to admire this cover. There are these like crazy floating figures in the air. These are what are called gleaners, I have learned, and they are like undead with like blades for arms. And yes, they can fly. Absolutely horrifying. And they are, of course, like an antagonistic force to our main character in one of these timelines. So because of what happened at the end of book 1, we're basically following our main character in what I will say is like 3 different stories, 3 different timelines, if you will, which isn't exactly accurate, but I don't want to give away any spoilers. Our first timeline is following Viz, our main character, right after the end of book 1. He just basically like wrapped up his competition at the magical academy that he was studying at, and things went horribly wrong and students died. And now he has to deal with that and deal with all of these pressures that he has from the 3 bodies of government, which is for the hierarchy is government, military, and religion. They all have different expectations of him, as well as this resistance movement that wants him to act on their behalf as well, because the hierarchy is evil. Our other timelines, we'll say, are following Viz in different place altogether. And one of them, the place where he finds himself seems a bit more primitive, but there are these magical druids that find him and are basically scared of him because of what he represents to their culture. So he also is like trying to prove himself amongst those people. And then our third sort of timeline is the one with these gleaners, where Viz is on a very important mission to try and take down a force that he thinks will have ripple effects across the timeline. So there's a lot going on. I think that this book is doing a really good job of making all of these seem pretty pacey. It's basically like giving us pieces of each of them, and just when something like exciting or is happening, or just when a reveal is like unleashed, the narrative switches to one of the other timelines, and so it keeps it like pretty well paced, I think, throughout. There's definitely things about this book that are a bit bothersome to me, just in the writing and the Gary Sue-ness of it all. Viz basically like has no flaws, can't be stopped, is good at everything that he puts his mind to. And the thing that bothers me the most, honestly, in that like that exemplifies that the most, is something that was present in the first book, which is this like little wolf pup that he befriends. And it's supposed to be like this dangerous wild creature and all this sort of stuff, but it like reappears in this book too. And I'm like, this again, like, okay, of course Viz is like the only person on the planet that can like tame these dangerous beasts. Whatever. But I'm having a really good time. I am intrigued to continue reading. I have been reading it, I think, somewhat slowly, which makes me think I'm probably not going to get to the horror book that I was hoping to maybe get to in this vlog. But this is just, it's a long book. It's taking me a long time. I haven't had as much time to read, and we're edging around the corner into Thanksgiving week now, so I'm going to be super busy with all the family stuff and traveling that we're going to do. So hopefully I can read the last like 350 pages of this over the next week, and then we'll move on to Shroud by Adrian Tchaikovsky after that. Okay, y'all. It's many days later, but I just finished this chunk. I loved it. I don't think I love it as much as the first one. I'm gonna give this probably between a 4 and a 4.5. That's mostly because I feel like the Gary Sue-ness of this character came through a bit more for me in this book, or maybe I just let it bother me more. Also, inevitably, I feel like when you split a narrative and you're jumping between like different characters' POVs or different timelines or whatever, as is happening in this book, inevitably one of them is going to be less interesting at any given time. And so like getting through those bits feels a bit more like a slog than what the other more exciting narratives were. And for me, that was the one where Viz is attempting to kill a god. As crazy as this sounds, was the least interesting storyline that was happening in this book. And every time we got to that story, I was just like, oh, okay, here we go. Crazy. And not necessarily because the like whatness of the other stories was more interesting. Like if I try to describe what was happening in one of the timelines or storylines, saying it out loud sounds way less interesting than like trying to kill a god. But it was more interesting. And I think maybe it's because the storyline in which Viz is trying to kill a god, he doesn't really have any surrounding characters that are very interesting. He did at the beginning, but that went away pretty quickly. And in the other stories, the one where he's continuing straight from the first book, he's still surrounded by his friends from the first book, which was nice. And then in the other one, he's making new friends, and that's really interesting. But again, the God Killer story is, he's just kind of like on his own, like trying to do a crazy task. And yeah, that was just less interesting for some reason. Also, the story, because of the amount of stuff we have to cover and that there's like 3 separate things happening in this book, every single like chapter break almost is like a pretty big time jump. There's like months that pass between like when we come back to a certain story. And so a lot of story happens off page. And I think that's good in some ways. Like in some of these narratives, it was like, oh, we were traveling, or, you know, like we were training or something like that. And so it's like, it's good that that stuff was skipped over. Like it made it more exciting. But at some points there was like stuff that I feel like we missed that seemed a bit more important, or just maybe I just needed some more exposition or explanation of like what was happening, because I found some of the stuff just a little bit confusing. Maybe it's because it's been a couple of months since I read the first book, or like they were just saying things like I should know them and I didn't, and I was like, was this something that happened in like a gap period that we just skipped over? And so now I'm just kind of being thrown into it and expected to keep up, but I wasn't keeping up super well. But anyway, the stuff that happens in here is still extremely epic. It was so much fun. Again, a bit of a slow middle in some areas, but I would still like highly recommend this book, highly recommend this series. Ends on another cliffhanger, probably not as massive of a cliffhanger, I think, as the first book did, but definitely still like I'm on the edge of my seat. If the third book was out, I would be picking it up like right now because I want to know what's going to happen. Definitely some emotional moments in this one, but I don't think that character connection and emotion is one of this author's strong suits. So those weren't like a super gut punch when they did happen, even though shock and horror of it was, but the grief of it I think didn't sit with me as much as it sat with our characters. Anyway, yeah, I think this is a great recommendation if you love Red Rising, or what was that other one that I started and didn't finish yet? The Sun Eater series. I think if you like either of those 2 series, like this is a very similar sort of one man's narrative type of story. And I think if you like those other ones, you'll like this one. So that's The Strength of the Few, one of my most anticipated books of the year. I'm so happy that I've read it now. It is December 1st, and I thought I would be done with this vlog by now. But, you know, it's been Thanksgiving. I spent the whole, 4-day weekend visiting and traveling with different sets of family. So I didn't really read at all over the last 4 days. But I am on page 286 out of 430 something of Shroud by Adrian Tchaikovsky. I'm optimistically gonna say 2/3, but it doesn't look like it's quite 2/3 yet. I'm having a good time. This is, I think, probably gonna end up being a 4-star book. First of all, let's just look how huge the font is on these pages. I feel like if this print was printed a normal size, this would not be a 430 something page book. This would be like a 300 something page book. But anywho, this is my second full Adrian Tchaikovsky book. I read Children of Time, as I mentioned. I also started Children of Memory, I think is the second one. Whichever the second one is called, I only got about 10% of the way in, and I wasn't enjoying it that much, so I just quit. I'm finding I have the same sort of struggle thus far in every Adrian Tchaikovsky book, which is that his writing of human characters is not super engaging. They are like the dry, crunchy bits of the Lucky Charms cereal that you have to get through to get all the tasty marshmallow goodness. And the same is true in this book. The characters are really vehicles for the plot, and his plots and his world building and his ability to write an alien species and make it feel truly alien is absolutely peak Adrian Tchaikovsky in this book. I am loving the story. I am loving the planet that we are on and the species that we are discovering. It's incredible. It is really like truly mind-blowing how great it is to read a fully developed alien species that is absolutely unlike anything I have read before. So freaking cool. So this is the story of a crew on a resource extraction ship, and they are searching for new planets to extract resources from. They stumble upon this moon that they call Shroud, which they discover because they say it is shouting into the void. There's a ton of like radio signals coming from this planet, so they can't help but discover it. They discover this atmosphere that is super thick and impenetrable to like see through, and the gravity is super intense. It's completely dark on the planet because the atmosphere is so thick no light can reach the surface. There's all these like crazy things about it that makes it absolutely uninhabitable for humans. And the biology that develops because of that is so unique. There ends up being an explosion on the ship that forces several of the crew into these like escape pods, sort of vehicles that were being built for planetary exploration, and they end up ejecting onto Shroud, which they never intended to do. And so the two people in this kind of pod are the two crew members that we follow for the course of this book. And they have no way to contact the ship up above to let them know that they are alive, and they are just trying to figure out what to do and how to survive and how to get to a place that they might be able to radio for help, because the planet is full of radio signals and they can't get anything above the noise basically or through the thick atmosphere. And they're trying really hard not to despair. But in the meantime, as they are traveling the surface of the alien planet in this little like ship pod thing, they are running into all kinds of life. Like, it isn't just like an alien species, it is an entire alien ecosystem, and some of it is intelligent and is discovering them back. It's so crazy. It's absolutely nothing like a humanoid. It's nothing like anything that we have on Earth. It's so fun. So that's where I'm at. I'm having a really great time. Like I said, the characters are just there. They're the vehicles for the plot, which I'm enjoying the plot a lot. Really, I'm just wowed by how cool this is, and I can't wait to dive back in and hopefully finish this really soon. My expectation is that I'll finish this before the winners of the Goodreads Choice Awards are announced, which is the 4th, I think. So I have like 4 days before that, but I really want to finish it like tomorrow, hopefully. And then I'll pop back in and let you know what I thought, and I'll post this the Saturday after the Goodreads winners are announced. And yeah, I'll see you then. Good morning. I just woke up. It is December 4th. So I just saw the results of the Goodreads Choice Awards, and 2 big surprises that actually had me like, what? One was that Bare Bones and the Midnight Soil won the fantasy category, which was not a surprise. But the really surprising thing to me was that Catabasis by R.F. Kuang got 2nd place, and Wind of Truth was 3rd. Only like 50,000 people voted for Wind and Truth. That totally blew my mind. Yeah. I thought it was going to be like a runaway between Bare Bones and Wind and Truth. And I really didn't think that Catabasis was popular enough to get that many votes. Its rating is like fairly low compared to a lot of other fantasy books. So shocked me, but I actually did vote for Catabasis, so I was happy to see it do so well. I think The Everlasting was probably my runner-up personally. The other surprise was the horror category. Grady Hendrix won with Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, which was also my vote because that's the only horror book that I had read in the category this year. But he beat Stephen King, so congrats. Like, that never happens. It took Stephen King's entry this year being like the 4th book in a series before another author finally stood a chance. But nonetheless, that's really cool that someone else got a chance this year. Yeah, The Compound won in Sci-Fi. Pretty much every other prediction that I made, I think I got correct about what the winners of the categories were going to be. So yeah, overall, what a fun year. Okay, now the real reason you're all here is that I finished Shroud. So we're finally at the end of the vlog, and now I need to hurry up and edit it before Saturday. This was fantastic. I highly, highly recommend this book to anyone who wants a really good sci-fi. It's listed as sci-fi horror. It was horrifying for the characters. I didn't feel the horror in me, but holy moly. Yeah, I feel like I would pitch this as like Pitch Black meets Journey to the Center of the Earth or something. I don't know. I hadn't thought about that before I said it out loud. I think one of the coolest things about this book was the fact that we got to read from the perspective of the aliens, the sentient species that lives on Shroud, and the way they communicate. I think I said radio waves in a previous clip. It's like electromagnetic waves or something, but regardless, just so unique, so cool. I don't know how else to describe it, but being able to see the aliens' perspective in chapters and understand where it was coming from and why it couldn't understand the humans it was interacting with. Has no eyes. Nothing on Shroud has eyes. And so just interpreting the actions of this human device, this like pod ship that they're in, when it had never encountered anything like it and couldn't necessarily interpret it as a creature with logical thoughts based on its environment. So neat. The 2 women who are in the pod end up trying to advocate somewhat for this species in the end, and what happens to them and their whole crew is such a great ending to this book. I think I'm gonna give this like a 4.5. I think I said 4 in the last clip, but I really had a good time, and I think this is such an easy recommend. Definitely probably one of the best sci-fi I've read this year. So that's it. That's the end of the vlog. Let me rank these. These books are so different. I always rank books at the end of a vlog, but these are like hard to compare. It's always hard to compare nonfiction and fiction books. So like Serviceberry, I gave 5 stars, but that doesn't mean that like when I think about my favorite books of the year that it's necessarily going to rise to the top. I think Shroud and The Strength of the Few, I both gave 4.5 stars. So I don't really know that I have a ranking, but this was a super successful vlog, probably one of my best of the year in terms of my enjoyment of the books. So yeah, 2 very successful vlogs in a row with the Lady Nights before this. That's awesome. So I've talked way too much in this vlog already, so I'll wrap it up there and just let you know that I will probably have a Buzzwordathon reading vlog coming up in December where I'm trying to finish up my reading goals for the year. Stay tuned for that. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more, and thanks so much for making it all the way to the end if you're here. As always, please be kind, read more books, and hit the subscribe button down below for more bookish content to come. I'll see you again soon.